The minute you act like you're doing somebody a favor, I personally think you're dead in the water.
How is pitching in Hollywood different from pitching in Silicon Valley?
That's a really good question. And my view is I wouldn't structure it as how are they different. I'd see them as 2 points on a continuum because there's a lot of overlap in any good kind of pitch. But clearly you're talking about one very specific type of product in Hollywood versus, an infinite set of things that you can pitch. But the basic ideas are always going to be the same.
Right.
That there are a number of factors. Again, I keep wanting to move us into persuasion because I love talking about persuasion. The psychology of persuasion is an incredible area. And we know a lot now about how people make decisions that we didn't know a while ago. And one of the interesting things, for example, have you heard of a book called Thinking Fast and Slow, Daniel Kahneman?
I haven't read it, but I've seen it in
Please, for your sake, read it. It's the best book I've read in decades. The man is so smart, it will scare you. But one of the major theses of the book is that when we solve problems, there are two ways we can go. We can think about it very, very deeply, or we can use our intuition. And a good part of the research that he's done says if you ask people how they process, they say deeply. If you watch the solutions they come up with, they're almost always intuitive. Now, intuition sounds like a flighty kind of idea, but intuition is based on everything you know, everything you believe, all of your history. So it's a vast storehouse of information. So you're not always starting from scratch. The interesting thing about this is if you're pitching anything, screenplay, a new detergent, doesn't matter, you start out with the idea that you'd like to keep people processing the information you're telling them at the intuitive level. Because if it's in the intuitive level, then everything is fine. Everything goes and fits with your background and everything you believe. The minute you make somebody go into deep, hard thought, one, you don't like it because it's hard to do. Anybody who enjoys doing math problems when they don't have to, immediately sour mood. And it immediately makes you skeptical because it doesn't fit your background. It doesn't fit who you are and the way you think about things. So if you're forced to go out of that comfort zone and work really hard, you become much more difficult to persuade. So one of the things that we talk about, if you're pitching Hollywood or anywhere else, got to do a tremendous amount of research before you go in on the people that you're pitching to. And again, you want to know what are the things they've done, particularly what are the things they've done that they're proud of and feel good about. And we had a story in there. A friend of ours, Larry Bresner, produced a movie called The Burbs. He hated the movie because the studio made him change the ending. And if you went in and pitched a project to him saying, I love your work, particularly I love The Burbs, you're out of the office. So you need to be thinking about what's somebody's sweet spot. How can I start out going in that area?
Do your homework. I don't think enough people do their homework in any area because they think what they've got is so original and so amazing. They don't study what's come before and what people like and don't like. So I think the Larry story is a great example, and we've got other ones like that from business people. There's one great story of, I believe it was your friend, the vice president at Boeing, and this guy walked in. I may have this wrong because it's a long book. It's a great book. It's very engaging. But I'm just saying, I'm just having a conversation about it. I'm not pushing it. But I believe it was Lexus, or it was Toyota, which is Lexus. So,
Jim Press.
Right. And this kid came in the room in Bermuda shorts and flip-flops. And I hope I'm not conflating two stories, but it doesn't matter.
Hawaiian shirt.
And a Hawaiian shirt, and he had a briefcase on his lap, and he kept telling them all the things he was going to do to save them money, and he doesn't realize that they're spending billions of dollars trying to get better fuel efficiency. He never takes anything out of the briefcase. He acts like he's doing them a favor. Of course they didn't do business with him. The minute you act like you're doing somebody a favor, I personally think you're dead in the water.
You know, to amplify that point, and Jeffrey was talking about it before, whenever you pitch, you're pitching two things: your project, yourself. And
Right.
what you're hoping for is that they're saying, I may not go for this idea, but I could see myself in business with this person.
Right.
So I would call on him, I got the rights to this novel, need somebody to write it, I'm going to give this guy a shot. That's a nice thing if you're doing a good job. So again, somebody gives you notes, you start quarreling with them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you never want to see that person again.
Right.
So you're always thinking of how can you be genial? How can you be nice? How can you avoid looking arrogant? And we had
Do we look arrogant?
No, I was worried you thought I was looking arrogant, so I was thinking more about me.
Wait, if I'm not looking arrogant, I'm not doing my job.
You know, it's interesting because you bring this up. You might want to cut this out, but it's interesting because I think the business is changing. All businesses are changing, and that is they don't want to do business with arrogant, entitled people. Abrams came to the university a year or two ago, JJ, and he's show business. His dad was he's second generation. His dad was a big TV movie producer in the 90s. And he said to the students, you come out of school and come to work for me, major producer, JJ, right? And the day you show arrogance or entitlement, like where's my corner office with the view and my parking space, you're fired. We're not putting up with that anymore. And I think the greatest example of that is, I won't mention his name, but he's done. I mean, he's very wealthy, but there was no sexual allegations or anything like that. He just treated people so badly, threw chairs at them, and he's done. I think that signals a really good change in industry. There's just too much work and too many, and just, why can't you be nice? I mean, that's the thing, is you don't have to be a jerk.
Well,
Sure.
we had a fellow we were talking to. When somebody comes in and says, I'm a graduate of the Yale Drama School, I was top in my class, you immediately hate that person.
Right.
So this guy had gone to the the USC Film School.
Yeah.
And, it's always rated the #1 film school in the country. And instead of saying, I'm a USC Film School graduate, he said, you know what they taught me in the USC Film School program? Whenever you leave the set, it should be exactly the way you found it.
Right.
And so he used self-effacing humor to make fun of, this is all I learned, but I did sneak in the fact that I went to USC, but I didn't do it like this.
Right. And the other point is, when you do what Peter so amusingly dramatized with that thing, you're not very smart, because if they invite you in, they know where you went to school. Nobody comes off the street. You know this better than we do. You've interviewed tons and tons and tons of people. Nobody takes an interview with someone that they don't know something about. That would be crazy. And it's never been that way.
But one final note on this, and then maybe we'll move on to another question, but have we gotten, though, a little too soft in terms of, well, this person said this, and I just feel that inappropriate, and now
Oh, yes, we have.
we almost can't say anything.
Yes, I think we're going through that phase. I see it and I hope that the pendulum will swing back to normal because it gets a little crazy. For example, since we're talking about show business today as well as business, if you're in a writer, it's one thing at a school or a university. If you're in a writer's room, and people are not talking about disliking a certain group of people, personally, that's one thing. But if in the script, it pushes your buttons and you can't, or as the new phrase is, it triggers you.
Right.
I really have to learn to do this better.
Yeah, I like it when you do that. That's nice.
Because that is the new phrase. It triggers you.
Sure.
And you can't deal with it. And you say, I'm sorry to the producer, I have to leave the room because the material is triggering me. I wish you luck in your career, in any career in Silicon Valley. We're not sitting around saying, I don't like this or that group of people. We're talking about it within the work. And I think that's where it might be getting too sensitive, that you've got to learn to deal with all subjects, and I think that's what you're asking, right? I mean, it's one, if you're being insulting and nasty to people, and it has nothing to do with what you're working on, that's a whole other story. But I do think that we're going through an overcorrection. That's just my opinion, but
Right.
you seem to feel that way. And
You're right. I mean, I'm Generation X, but I do see that it feels like maybe there's too much coddling going on. I don't have children, so I can't really speak from the viewpoint of a parent, but it does seem like maybe we're getting a little bit too precious. And
I think that, again, I'm not a psychologist, but I have a very close
But you
friend.
work with one.
I work with one, and I
you have
have,
one sitting
and I
like
have
a
a
few-
daughter who has her MSW now since I've seen you. So, and she's in that phase, fairly new MSW, so she is analyzing everything that we say, But what you really mean is, but Peter told me not to worry, that he did that it's a part of the...
It's a rite of passage.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, right.
It's an annoying rite of passage, I'll tell you that, for other people. But no, I do. I agree with you. I think that, but I do think that the pendulum is going to have to swing back because it's crazy now. It's just nuts.
Well, it's actually going down political lines, which is worse.